bringing you the latest news, game updates, insights, highlights, and everything Liberty Hockey. This is Rock the Rink, where Liberty Hockey lives.
Successful weekend overall for men's Division I hockey. Hey there, friends. Welcome on into Rock the Rink. Andy Corey here, alongside Chris Kerr and Patrick Strawn. Flames split the weekend series with the Adrian Bulldogs. They were number 2 coming into this weekend series. I'm guessing they'll probably stay in that area. A lot of people think they should have been number 1, myself included, coming in. Yeah, don't you agree?
Yeah.
Why not fall to Mary?
For sure.
Yeah, okay.
No, I'm with you.
Yeah,
We're
I think
on
the whole
same
room's
page.
there.
Yeah. First night was Star Wars night. It started off, you're thinking, okay, this is going to be just a real tough battle, 0-0. But then start of the second period, Flames caught lightning in a bottle, popped 3 on the board, and that would eventually lead them to victory.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, I think the key factor for them, right? We've talked about it throughout the whole season. When you play those top 10 goalies, you've got to just have a solid net presence, right? And crash the net. And that's where they were able to find success. First goal, you see it's a redirect because there's traffic off of Calendike. Second, he's shooting to create, but Versolano crashes the net. Third one, Sam Feemster, he picks up a good rebound, finds Bartel in the slot, and then he's able to one-time it in. So, that propels Liberty to really having success in night 1. Night 2, unfortunately, doesn't go LU's way, but I think a lot of positives have to be excited for if you're the Flames, especially because you had a short lineup all weekend and you were able to find a lot of success, as we said, versus the Bulldogs.
What I really loved when you're watching game 1, it had the next man up mentality, right? How many times on the call, Rhett, we're like, oh, new look line out here, or somebody popping up, coming up, coming down, and it's a testament to the hard work that we've put in across the year, not just of the usual cast of characters that we mention all the time, but the entire team of I'm working hard in the weight room, I'm working hard on the ice, so then when my number is called, I could step up. So I believe, for example, Feemster was playing up with Fulton Bartel off the cable shot, gets that rebound, and makes a beautiful little pass over for the Bartel kind of 1T there for the goal.
Yeah, and I was impressed with the same thing. And I think also being able to do that against Adrian, you had done that against Stony Brook, against other opponents when you knew you were going to be down a couple guys and, you pulled it off. But I think to be able to do that against a team like Adrian, I mean, that's what you're going to have to do come nationals. And I think that a big takeaway for them probably from this series is, the second game, I mean, it's an earlier game. You're playing in the morning. That's the kind of thing you're going to have to do come nationals time. And I think that, it was a good experience for them to play as high quality of a team as Adrian is 2 days in a row, not at the times they're used to. And, I mean, those are my takeaways.
Annie, I didn't even think of that, but it's such a good point from where we've been ranked heading into nationals the last couple of years. Our first games are at 10 a.m., right? Just weird times, not that typical, 7 or maybe 4 or something. So having that odd time, I think that's great. Just give us an example of what it might feel like if we get the 10 a.m., the 1 p.m. game come St. Louis time.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. This weekend, a lot of the hockey was different. You could tell there wasn't a lot of time and space out there. It was a lot of fun. And one thing I loved, Calendike, in game 2, they did a better job of just taking away his shot. Did we ever see a classic Calendike ripper?
No, I think he only had one solid chance.
Right.
But he didn't have enough time to set up like we normally expect him to, right?
So
I can remember game 1, he had one chance. I don't know if it was on the power play or not, but there was a screen on the goalie, and they were already up 3-0, and he snapped one. It was going to go inside the bar on the stick side, and Ducatini's got a piece of it through traffic.
Oh, I remember that.
And that
Coburn
was
being like, remember that?
Yeah. That was a big shot. And then in game 2, again, I don't know if it was power play or not, but he tried to go short side high on the stick, and he missed. But one thing I did like is the fact that, Calendike, I've already respect him as a hockey player, but the fact that you go back even to Syracuse and you're up by 3 and he's blocking a shot with less than a minute left, I was like, man, that's something right there. Good for that kid. I love that. And then the fact that he changed up his game in game 1 against Adrian and he basically scored 2 greasy ones. Great tip. Goes in, and then that 4th goal, which I'm sure Ducatini's would love to have back, where he pokes it in on a goal mouth scramble. That I'd take video of that and be like, guys, this is how you win a national championship. Like, I know there's going to be some pretty ones.
Agreed.
I love the Bartel shot, and that just came from good zone pressure, and you got their defensive zone coverage off, and you took advantage of it. You capitalized on your opportunity, but you need those greasy markers like Calendike scored in order to win the Murdoch Cup.
Reminds me of years ago, Artie Lakaitis putting it between the legs. You guys remember that one? Just crashing the net. And I'll say this because look at the boys fired up. They're having a great blue collar versus white collar work discussion. And Jacob was pumping himself up as like blue collar guy. And they're like, Jacob's internship is going to be laying concrete all summer. And just,
is he really?
Like I don't know. You know how the guys get, right? When they're just riffing off each other.
That's hilarious.
That was just such a huge thing of like who's blue collar.
Right.
Someone was like, I use power tools, like blue collar. So I was like, that's for rich people. I'm in there with a manual screwdriver, putting everything in. That was perfect. But yeah, to your point, Rhett. Moments of this past weekend had a lot of playoff game feel to me.
Yeah.
Where like you're not going to get those big beautiful goals. A lot of them are going to have to be a little greasy. A lot of them are going to have to be off of a rebound through traffic. Like a lot of them were just kind of had that higher level type of feel to it where you just don't have the one team just dominating with beautiful after beautiful goal pass and things like that.
There's like nitpicky things I saw. Like I thought Adrian did a great job in transition of getting the puck up ice quickly. Like they would counter on you and be on top of your D really fast. Where Liberty, I feel like sometimes their D will get the puck and they coast back into their own zone, perhaps holding on to it a little bit too long. Like I'd love to see, like Liberty has a ton of speed on the front end. I'd love to see the Flames take advantage of a neutral zone turnover and then turn it back on the opposition's D and just come screaming at them. Because I think that would just open up a lot more room in their wheelhouse of skill set. Like that finesse play that they enjoy. It's the truth of the matter. Like just turn it on them fast and get going north and put their D on their heels. That would be one thing. But kind of in game two, we go and I felt like that's what Adrian did well. I thought their neutral zone transitions were really crisp, and then they were relentless all night long. Like they were dumping the puck in, they were going at it hard, and they were making the D for Liberty that was a long night, in my opinion. Like it turned out okay. Like it was a 4-2 game. It's not like he got blown out of the rink, but at the same time, they were hitting you every single opportunity they had.
Yeah, and I think there's something that's kind of what they do, right? Like they do a good job of establishing a great offensive tempo, offensive zone pressure, and it's about teams figuring out a way to combat it. Like I remember you and Coburn were talking about even last year, Minot State figured it out when they won 1-0 because they were outshot in that championship game, but they found a way to find the golden goal, basically. Right. So, like, I mean, I feel like this weekend had a lot of good tape for Liberty, especially the feels of the game, too. Like, right, the atmosphere, the playoff style feel, and also what it's going to take to win a game, right? Like, especially versus any team really now in the, you could say top 10. It's the format's changing to 24 teams, like, because I wouldn't be surprised if a team that's playing day one strikes fire and we see them in the Final Four.
Yeah, and going back to what Kerr said earlier about just like that gritty blue collar mentality, I was talking to DJ Schwenke like last week, I think it was, and just about his line, and he was saying that one time in an interview, like Kirk had called it like the plumber, the line of plumbers, something like that, and he was like, we loved that, and I guess he said like the whole team is kind of taking on that mentality and like, you know, you want to be a plumber, and just like being that hardworking guy. Yeah. So I guess just playing off of what you said there, because I mean that's what you're gonna have to do come national tournament time, and I think that's what you saw in that first game against Adrian.
I just wonder where they're getting the whole. The team's not that smart or creative, so it had to have come from somebody else. They're having that.
It happened during the Stony Brook game 1 when they won 9-2.
Okay. Oh. All right. No, that makes sense.
Back first semester. I remember that. Yeah, they had that line did have a weekend.
They did.
That was solid. One other guy I thought had a pretty, good game too was Finch. There's, he's using the speed. I think he could be an X factor when it comes to nationals, because how many teams in the national spectrum have a guy that's that offensively gifted online for. You notice I said offensively. The Canadian guy left.
Yeah,
So
there you go.
I just think the one aspect I'd love to see Finch more is instead of he uses his speed, drives it wide, and comes back around. He'll come around. I think sometimes change up and drive to the net, like keep the D guessing.
Yeah.
You know, but other than that, I think that Game 2 weekend, like he had some pop to him. I saw he got moved up in the lineup for a shift or two, then came back down. Like those guys, he and Bladen have so much speed. I don't think there's many teams nationally that can keep up with how fleet of foot they are.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Especially it's when you're used to like something here, and then you inject those guys into the lineup.
Right.
It's a quick burst, and then if go wide a couple times, then come to the middle, shoot low pad, crash and bang, or just snipe if you have the abilities like Ryan does. It could be deadly.
Speaking my love language, shoot low pad. Love that.
Hey, yeah, that was how the second goal got scored.
Yeah,
right.
That's right. Real quick, Pat, you have a great mind for this. Is that, in your opinion, the best two goalies in the nation, Ducatnese and Verostic? Is there somebody else that you can think of that's kind of...
I think it's pretty close, but I mean, I like Damon from Ohio. Like,
he's solid. Yeah,
I think he's a little underrated, and they're starting. Ohio, I know we're about to touch on them, but they're starting to get it together. Anthony in Minot State too. He's
that's who I wanted to look up.
Talented netminder too. Like you could make a case like that's the top four. I wish I knew a little bit more about UCO, but since we don't play them and we haven't played them in years, like I haven't really followed that team. I just know the program has had a lot of success, obviously with 2 national titles, and then 2 years ago when they lost to Lindenwood in the championship back in St. Louis. So, but yeah.
Can I just say one thing that drives me crazy about the ACHA website?
Let me hear it.
If you want to go in and like look at stats or the schedule, you have to do the whole stinking league.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then
It shows you all the.
I know.
Yeah.
Like I'm just trying to
takes a
look
while.
up here goalies at the ACHA D1 level. I can't do that. I have to either go every single division there is, or
By
I have
conference
to by
or-
conference.
yeah.
Like, give me just the ACHA. Drives me. It's just absolutely brutal. Anyways, it drives me crazy. So enough of that. I was going to try to look up some other goalies, but that's too hard. So we're going to move on. Also, this past weekend, there's some interesting scores. Minot's going to keep number 1. They beat Waldorf or Waldorf.
I'm assuming Waldorf.
I think okay.
Or maybe I could have wrote it wrong.
I don't know.
It wouldn't be surprising.
I feel like I've heard of a Waldorf, but maybe
Waldorf.
who knows.
Yeah.
All right, 5-0 and 7-0. UCO takes down number 18 Missouri State 5-3 and 4-0. UNLV, this is the one to keep an eye on. This might be of interest to LU. Splits with number 17 Utah, winning in overtime 5-4 and then losing 4-3 in OT. So that would be
Are
fun.
we potentially going to see round 3 of UNLV and Liberty in the quarterfinals at national?
Wouldn't surprise
Yeah,
me.
that'd be crazy.
Right,
surprise.
like that's kind of it feels like
Yeah.
it's brewing
Yeah.
that way right now.
It's going to happen. I think it is. Like, it's just that's how, those guys, the computer rankings spit out one thing and they're just like, well, this is good for TV. But so what are you guys' thoughts? You think Liberty comes in at 4 this week?
I wouldn't be surprised, but at the same time, 2 weeks ago we thought Adrian would be number 1.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And somehow they weren't. But yeah, I mean, I would feel like when you have 2 games that go to overtime versus a number 17, I feel like that doesn't do you much favors. So you would think that Liberty would catapult them, and then also too, I wouldn't be surprised if UCO is the new number 2, right? Like I think that more so because of the 4-0 victory. I think that might help them out a little bit. Yeah,
Interesting.
So
Computer rankings are tough at the D1 level because it's like you keep scoring and accumulating. So they're, years ago, 2020, we swept Adrian at home and they stayed number 1. It's like, but they were just so far ahead of everybody else because of goal differentials and, everything like that. Goals for, goals against. So it's so hard to say.
It is.
You just never know. Like,
Yeah.
From where we were in the fall, man, we climbed back up into top 10, top 5 contention. Like you have no clue. That's my opinion.
I miss the days of Fishbert. I don't know. Do you?
Oh,
do you,
yeah.
Pat knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Andy, there's this
I have no
guy
idea.
who was this. He was a fan of. Was it
Ohio.
Arizona or Ohio?
Well, he was a fan of because we joked he was a fan of Sean Hogan because he followed Arizona a ton, and then when Hogan got the job at Ohio, he got a job in Ohio.
That's
too.
right. Yeah, it was kind of coincidence, but this guy had the formula down, and he was just like a math genius, and basically would just kind of keep track of like the ACHA national rankings and have a live Google sheet that you could go look at it at any time, and he kept track of all the goal scores and whatnot. Like it was crazy, but yeah, I miss Fishburne when it comes to times like this.
We need him now.
Yeah. Fish, where are you,
retirement.
Yeah. Anyways, still lots of hockey to be played for men's Division I on the road this weekend to take on Ohio, which will be obviously a big series. Ohio, the Bobcats coming off a sweep of 21 Iowa State, winning 4-3 and then 2-0 with an empty netter. So it's crazy to see these teams in the late teens and early 20s given the top 5 or top 6, you could say, some challenges.
Yeah.
What do you think for LU on the road? Bird Arena is not an easy place to play.
I think for Liberty, because Ohio is we were a little shocked about their record.
Correct.
But I think the Chicago showcase, that helped, I think, right the ship for them. Right? Like you beat UNLV, you also beat number 1 Minot.
Yeah.
And then they started getting things rolling there. Now I know they've split some games here to start the year, but like at the same time, like they're just too loaded, right? Like so I think this is a big series for Liberty, because I remember talking before the spring semester started. I was like, if you're a Flames fan, you want to see Liberty go either 10-2 or 9-3 in this stretch. Because that's to not only give hope and morale to the locker room, but also let like Kerr said last week, those who know. Yeah. Right? Like so, and I think this is a big weekend series for them against a team they know well and a team I think they're very capable of beating.
Yeah. Looks like Luke Reeve is back. Like he's obviously he got hammered by Bartel, which I still think was a pivotal play in that weekend.
Needs
series.
to happen again.
It does. I would play him so hard. Not that you want to hurt the guy.
No, that's I just meant
like
you said, it's got to be a long night for you.
Yeah, you've got to make his life just miserable. But in his like so far this year, if we go to the start when they start playing games on January 5th, believe it or not, 2 apples in his first game. Next game he scores 3 goals and has 4 points. Then in 5 out of his next 6 games, he has scored at least a goal. He has a 4.9 in there as well. So he is turning up the heat when it matters most. Like he's good. And then too, you'd think Laker Aldridge would be number 2 in scoring. He's down there away. Matthew Auvert has 13 goals, 22 assists, 35 points on the year. Noah Holt, who these are 2 freshmen, right?
Right.
They've got so much talent. He has 21 goals, 34 points. Then there's Laker Aldridge. Now, give you the asterisk. He has only played 22 games as opposed to like 30 for the rookie, so he'd probably be over top of them. But he has 19 goals in 22 games, Laker Aldridge. Yeah, wow. The guy can just put it in the back of the net.
How's he been doing lately? Like, has he been?
Yeah, here. Good question. Let's take a look.
The last
here,
5 games option there.
Well, if you click into their name, it does show you what they've done throughout the. So he's actually been pretty quiet here the last 4 games. Last 4 games, he only has 2 points, 1 goal, and 1 assist in separate games. So we'll see. But before that, against Toledo, who's he had 4 goals in 2 games. So I know Lakers been banged up this year, right?
Yeah,
you haven't seen a full Laker Aldridge show, but it'll be a good weekend of hockey for LU. And like Pat said, you kind of want to keep that momentum going forward. Justin Damon again is one of the better goaltenders in the ACHA. That was a good name. I forgot about him. 238 goals against average, 924 save percentage. Flames are gonna have their work cut out for them this weekend, and I really think you go back to it. If you can play like you did in that second period, and I felt like Liberty hit their stride in terms of dumping the puck in deep and just giving chase, and then you had some greasy goals came from it, but you also had like a beauty from Bartel. That is the formula for this team.
Right.
Like that is
use
your speed to your advantage. Mm-hmm. Anyways, it's gonna be a lot of fun to watch, and then the weekend after that, Niagara coming into town for here at Liberty. So lots more men's Division I action approaching us here shortly. All right, let's turn our attention now to women's Division I hockey. Thrilled to be joined by their head coach, Chris Lowe's. Chris, good to see you.
Rhett, how are you?
Good. Let's talk. A lot of talk about on the slate for you guys. Obviously, it's been an up and down year. You're number 2 in the nation. We say it's been an up and down year. I think that speaks volumes in itself. But let's go back to St. Louis a couple weekends ago now. You go there. I think a lot of Flames Nation's kind of wondering, okay, they've lost some games this season. That's kind of a new thing on our list, right? But let's see how they do out west. You come away 3-0. Talk to us about that weekend, 3 games, 3 days, and what you saw from your group. And you also get some bodies back as well. You got a healthy lineup now for the most part as you head into second semester.
Yeah. So let's start. I guess. Yeah. The All-Star Weekend first and foremost was a pretty cool thing. First time we've done it as a conference. So the WMCH, and I thought it was a real big success. I didn't know what to expect, and so that was very encouraging. As far as a team, before the All-Star festivities, it was a big weekend for us. I think Coach Kerr knows this, and a few other people. If you would ask me before the weekend, I would have said we're a little bit behind. Like we're just not there. Like if you would, whatever that projection is or where we want to be, and I left there feeling really optimistic. So yeah, I feel like we found a little something, and I've probably said that a few times, but now was that a fluke, or how do we capture that, right? And how do we replicate it? And so now I'm excited, right? Like we've had some weekends where there's been some question marks and some things. It hasn't all gone seamlessly.
So, Coach, we are nearing the kind of latter half of the season, as crazy as it is to say, in the beginning of February. So, taking kind of some things from that weekend, can you share with the audience here a couple things that you're hoping to sort of build on and get momentum on, some things that maybe you're looking at in practice, or how that might look?
Yeah, there's definitely some system things that we're really focusing on, and not even systems, just a couple principles and ideas, and a lot of them involve around like playing fast and support on the puck and some of those things. But I think for me, the St. Louis trip, there was some individuals I think that had those weekends. Obviously, Alex in net, really big weekend for her. One of those, I'd say it's one of her top 3 weekends since she's been at Liberty, and for her to, as Coach Graham says, carry the mail. Yeah. Like she just did a great job and looked calm, composed, and so that was really big. And then I think we saw some other girls kind of do some things and have some moments. Ellie Sauerhour's one, like the kids leading our team in scoring quietly. Yeah. I don't know how possible that is, but she had a really big weekend and I think found some stuff. We've got some line combos that I think we're hoping might stay through nationals. So,
and a big shout out for Ellie Sauerhour, big Toby Keith fan. R.I.P. there, but played a little tribute and she was rocking. She absolutely loved it. Wanted to peg her for a Toby Keith fan, but
those Minnesota girls,
they love their country. Yeah, it's so true, so true.
And could you touch a little bit on the difference that it's made having Carly Glover and Unique Truder back in the lineup? I mean, you lose Britton after the first semester. Now you have these 2 girls back up, and it seems like, they've clicked right away coming back in. Could you talk about what that process has been like for them?
Yeah, it's been long. Like I think speaking for them, both Jan and Glover just putting in the work, and it's been a long road back. And for them, I think they're just scratching the surface. But I was very happy with what I saw. And again, you've got Jan, Glover, and Ellie making up a line that we're going to need to be pretty good. And I think we're but we're seeing a little bit more of that chemistry. And I'm liking the compete in practice, and I think when we get in those games that really matter, like they're a line that has to go +1, 5-on-5, have to be dangerous, obviously on the power play. But
and before we kind of look more towards this weekend and the rest of this semester, something I say to the team often in the weight room and just kind of on the podcast of, it's not unusual for us to put up 40+ shots and then only come away with 1 or 2 goals. But it seemed like against the teams who were playing in this weekend, we put up a lot of goals, right? So was that just hey, things finally clicked, some girls finally broke out? Was it some systems things? Just kind of give us an idea there.
Yeah, good question. I don't think we know fully, but I think it was a bit of everything. We had like girls that kind of had those breakouts. I look at Brielle always brings the energy. Like she's a kid that's just consistently impactful, right? Even when she has a bad game, like she's out there giving us great energy, great minutes. I thought Zasha had a really good weekend. She's really coming into her own, and I thought her performance in the All-Star game it was really good, fast hockey, and she looked, really comfortable and at home. So, a little bit of everything. Lindenwood, obviously, we went off, and that's just one of those games. But it's good to see as a coach, we scored early and we scored often. And I think once we started, just vibing and feeling that, they came in bunches. But no, just overall good weekend. You talked about the offensive production. Me, naturally, I loved the goals against and being under 1 a game. So I think both of those are recipes for success.
I do have a couple Chris Lowe's lines I keep in my back pocket. One of my favorite ones you said, no, this is a good one, is that I hate being scored on more than I hate losing, because getting scored on is the process of losing. I always remember that. I'm like, that is a really good point. How much of your practice would you say is dedicated to like defensive zone coverage and that aspect of the game, and transitioning from defense to offense instead of just like, hey, how we score goals?
Yeah, that's a good question, and the reality is probably very little. Okay. Right? Because I think the way you practice plannings has changed is you're breaking down those skills into smaller. Right, okay. And so you're working on, and we spent a lot on the breakout, right, and just every decision that has to happen on a breakout, and so putting D under pressure both from the back and coming to their face, and but yeah, it's hard to replicate full games, and that's why I love the game of hockey. It's such a broken, mistake-filled game, and you never run out of things to work on, right? Just those broken plays, those dirty plays, but. No, I think just breaking it down as much, and we just try to. Then from there, you try to mix in the compete. So we try, trying to keep score, trying to do some 4-on-4, 3-on-3, where they get a bit of everything, and because that's the thing, right? And we see that in practice. We'll work through D zone reps, and they're perfect. We get in a game. I watched some video this week of a couple 2-on-1s, and I thought our D looked really out of sync on them, and. But that's just the difference, right? When you're in the game and there's a million things going and you're tired and your wrist hurts and it's are you going to perform at that top level?
Yeah. So coming into town this weekend, Adrian, it is senior weekend, tons of emotions there, but the Bulldogs come in number 3 in the nation, so it's going to be a quality contest. Give us your thoughts on the weekend ahead.
Yeah, well, I'd be remiss if I didn't. I mean, what a senior class, right? Zeef and Story, Glover, Ree, what a group, and what success they've had, and just what they've meant to our program, and even not to get sentimental, but as a coach, right? Like these are kids that we spend a lot of time. Coach Kirk can that resonates with him, I'm sure. But you really get to know them, and you get to see. Like I look at a kid like Ree, right? Like she's just a young woman ready to go change the world, and when she came, she's a 17-year-old, high schooler. And so just it's pretty special to watch that and just to see all their successes. And this group in particular is pretty awesome.
No, that's good stuff. As you look ahead, like obviously you have Adrian coming up, and then it's going to be conference championships that you get to host at home this year, which would be a lot of fun. You felt like you maybe caught a little bit of something, but you like your trajectory better now. What do you feel like you need to polish up? I don't want you to give away secrets to people out there, obviously, that are listening in. Yeah. But, how much further do you feel like you need to go with this team to kind of get them back rolling on all 8 cylinders, ready to go for conference championships and eventually nationals?
Yeah, just consistency, right? And I think in St. Louis, over 9 periods, we played 6.5, maybe 7 good ones. Okay. Right, and when you get to the conference tournament, I'm not even thinking nationals. Right, we got to arguably our conference tournament will be a tougher road than national. It could be, but you got to play 9 periods, and you can't win 3 games in a row. Playing 5 or 6. So I think just seeing that consistency, and then just the execution side. Right, we're such a good team when we're up, too, so we get that first one, and we just tend to settle into groove, and but yeah, I think Adrian will be a big 10. We get Indiana Tech before conference as well for the 2, and so those 4 games. And the other thing is I want that 1 seed, and I think it's manageable. Right? We got 4 tough games, so our strength of schedule is going to be improved, and now it's just a matter of us, taking care of results and watching and seeing what Midland does.
One kind of sort of final question for me of we talk so much about the in front of the house stuff that everybody sees, but a young lady who you and I both are like, hopefully she doesn't leave somehow. But talk a moment about Victoire. Talk a moment here about Vicky T, the manager of all managers.
Yeah, well, she's already mad we're talking about her, so we might as well
Exactly.
Jump both feet in. No, she's such a special young woman. I call her a kid, but she's awesome. She's really just been a stabilizing piece of our team, and you see the people standing on the bench and doing some of that stuff on the coach side. But yeah, I jokingly say she's the brains of the operation, but what she does just affects everything, and it just takes so much off coaches' plates and allows us to focus on players and recruiting and other things. And other than that, just she's a great person to be around, and traveling around the U.S. Together in Finland, and it's important to have that peaceful presence, and Victoire does a great job.
Yeah, and I'll share a story of last year going to Arizona. Right, Victoire unfortunately couldn't go. She was in a wedding, but selflessly and just servant's heart, she orders a speaker because the girls forgot one that we go and pick up at Best Buy, right? Like the girls realize, oh, we forgot a speaker, and somehow Victoire catches wind of it, orders one for the team, right? It's just little things like that that really like help everything run. I never once have to think about this. You never have to think about that because of the people behind the scenes that really, keep the ship going, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what President Costin talked about culture, I actually thought it was really good yesterday in the convo, and but like Victoire does that, right? And she just she contributes so much to kind of that presence, and our job as coaches and staff over this team is to give our kids the best experience. And that you mentioned the servant side of things, and that's what we're trying to do, and what she leads the group with.
That's awesome. Let's talk really quick about the conference championship coming up here at home. How big is that for you guys, not having to travel an extra weekend of just putting over 1,000 miles on your wheels?
Yeah, it's interesting. We talked about this a little bit during the COVID year where we went to Minot. I'm not a big fan of hosting. Okay. I think as a coach that just wants results, I think there's a few things that, there's something about being on the road, being in a hotel, doing team video, being completely dialed. There's a reason our football team doesn't, sleep in the dorm before a game. But all that said, no, I'm excited. It's CFA, right? Can we get 1,000 people out to the, to fill the building? And it's just going to be good, right? I think the monkey in the room is Midland swept us on their ice. And it's like, I'd love the chance to get one at home with them. And, obviously I think things are going to run through them, both conference and natties. But, it's going to be a fun experience. I think we'll have a good support from family and friends, and hopefully the student body comes out to support.
That leads me to my next question. What did Midland do well in that sweep? Because we haven't spoken to you since that happened. Like if you go back, and I know it sounds like your team has changed and grown since that time, but what does Midland have?
They do most things well. to summarize, I mean, they outchanced us on that weekend, and I think you maybe throw away the 5-0 game. You don't, but it just got away from us, and it just once there was that momentum was rolling, it was hard to stop. But even the day one game, I thought they outchanced us. So even game one, maybe they had 9 scoring chances and we had 4. And we couldn't finish on ours, and then they did. And I thought their pressure without the puck and their spacing and what they do caused us fits, and we didn't do a very good job of using the big ice. We looked a little bit uncomfortable, and then I don't think girls had their weekends. That's part of that individuals, right? If 6 of your individuals aren't playing their best hockey, and your team's not going to play their best, so. All I can say is I'm excited. I was really impressed first and foremost by what they did, but now we want another shot.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like in a year where you're undefeated, there's that kind of driving momentum and focus, like we have to stay undefeated, and there's kind of that build, and you just kind of almost taste it, like we have to keep this going. But now with a couple of losses, is that the focus? And I'm not saying you're saying this as a coach, but do you feel like the girls are kind of like we've got to keep this thing going, like in terms of like national championships won, and we've got our eyes on Midland, like we can't let them spoil our party?
That's a good question. Maybe part of the question is probably better for the girls, because I've wondered about that pressure, right? Of but yeah, I don't. It's going to be an interesting run. I like our locker room though, and I like our energy, and we usually don't fight motivation, right? I don't think that's something we've got a good group. We fight being tired, we fight injuries, we fight like every other team, but I don't think we necessarily struggle for motivation or fight complacency,
or effort or work ethic, or not with this team.
It's going to be the other thing that's been fun is to be part of the rankings and to watch that, and even we fell from 1 to 2, which I don't, admittedly we didn't deserve the 1. Or Midland's clearly established themselves, but the reason we jumped to 1 ahead of them is because Adrian beat them in one of their rankings. So now Adrian had a bad weekend, they drop, and so there's just lots of movement, and that's going to be a fun thing for our league. The top 10's pretty stacked, and there's some really talented teams on the bubble right now, and to see kind of how things shake out.
Well, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch as it comes down to the wire end of this month. Real quick, before we let you go, have you watched any PWHL?
I've seen some highlights.
Okay.
And I've read a little bit about and this kind of strikes my interest bone too, but the physicality of it.
That's what I was going to ask. Do you like that element?
I don't at all.
No? Okay.
No, I think it's Rhett, you've known me a long time.
Yeah.
When I made the switch from men's to women's, I worried I was going to miss that part of the game.
Right.
And I don't miss it at all.
Okay.
And as a player, I was that guy. I was, I loved the greasy side. I loved the dirty stuff. I loved the things that happen in hockey. But no, I don't love it in the women's game. I think that's what makes it special, and it's why I love coaching. Very rarely do we deal with knuckleheads on other teams that are a distraction. And I watched men's D1 this week and men's D2. There's that mess going on. Right. So I like the purity, and the reality is, and maybe Coach Kerr can talk about it, is the concussion thing's real. Mm-hmm. And I've watched these girls, right? Like my first year in women's, I think I had more concussions than that last year on the men's side. Wow. And it's just women are built differently. The ability to support the neck and the head and take impacts. Mm-hmm. It's just different. And I've seen too many of our girls sitting on the sidelines, and I'd hate to see them try to replicate the men's game, right? Like, let's embrace women's hockey that's fast, that's skilled, and played the right way.
But if you had to have a girl drop the gloves, who would it be on the team if you just have to send someone out there to tune someone up?
That's easy. That's the easiest question we've had. The respect for Aislinn Stretch in our locker room runs deep. I've heard this for years. I mean, we those are the things you talk about as a team on the road. Like, hey, you're in a street fight, you get one girl.
Yeah.
It's always Ace has toughness for days. We've got some tough kids too, right? Like, I think of Brooklyn and Glover and Oaks and some. Yeah. But yeah, it would be Ace.
That's a good.
That's a very good question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we won't be able to discuss this because it'll take too long. But you'll have to ask Unique Truder about her sister getting flag football canceled at Liberty.
Oh really?
They couldn't take the.
Sounds like we need to get Unique.
Couldn't take the South African Thunder there.
She was bringing the heat.
Yeah, she hurt too many girls in the first game. They're like, we can't do this.
Andre will wear that.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what they were talking about.
All right, Chris, great chatting to you, and hopefully we'll get you back on here before Nationals.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, always great to have Chris Lowe's in to chat and just his take on how the ladies are doing. Again, senior night coming up. Number 3, Adrian, coming to town this weekend. Adrian coming off a split against number 8, Indiana Tech. They won 4-2 and lost 3-1. Indiana Tech's one of those teams where, like, a little bit surprised to see them at number 8. Thought they might be higher, but they obviously, you can see they can sneak up and bite you as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting watching the ladies' rankings because even Minot State, I believe they're 4th now.
Are they?
Right? Like,
they moved that high? Wow. Okay.
At one point we thought, they're dead in the water. Yeah. It's over. But like they have clawed their way back up. So like Chris said, like there's a lot of teams in that top 10 that are good and dangerous, and then some teams are on the bubble trying to just get in. Like it's still tough, right? Like, so Indiana Tech, I think that's a good split for them, and I think for Adrian, like, they've owned that conference that they've been in, the GLCHL, and so, like, I think for them, they're hoping to be able to win another title, but more importantly, I think they would love nothing better than to ruin the ladies' senior night, right? Like, especially how many moments have Liberty taken away from them. So this is, in their mind, probably a lot of them thinking, hey, this is one of our better opportunities to go get one.
Yeah, and I remember that Nationals game last year. So exciting. Like, anytime these two teams play each other, it is fun. So I think, like, same thing as the men. Like, playoff type feel.
Right.
You know, as you're getting closer to the conference tournament, to Nationals. So I think it's a great thing for them. And, I mean, they're just on the uptick right now.
Yeah, and the ladies have a nice kind of couple weekend series coming up here, facing Adrian, and then the following week, Indiana Tech. So, the next 4 games are going to be good ones.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And then, I know, Chris, I get the whole idea of, like, not wanting to be on the road because there's a certain element of having your team focused. It's not like you can get distracted with whatever you do in your normal everyday life. When you're on the road, you're kind of like, okay, we're on a business trip, right? Yeah. But we'll see how they fare coming up here again. Midland will be coming into town for the conference championship. Will be a lot of fun to watch. All right, Kerr, time for your weekly health tip. What do we have?
Love it. So, unfortunately, last week I had to hop off early, so I couldn't share this one. But just a little bit ago, I'm doing my shopping at the local Walmart here on Wards Road, and just my shopping cart just bumps perfectly into old Colton Kovich. He was making his rounds through the frozen aisle there.
Yeah.
We had our little talk. We got fired up there, and then I'm making my last kind of round because as it happens when you're at the store, you get the text of, "Hey, don't forget this."
Oh yeah.
You got a quick story. Yeah, go ahead.
My goodness! Like, I'm not getting my wife any grief here, but I always get that text.
Well, you got a lot of kids.
I know,
Yeah.
and I totally understand it. When I'm at the van, like when I get out to the prison transport van that we own, and I'm putting the groceries in the back, I always look down and I see the text of, like, hey, can you grab this? And I'm like, yep, I just got to run back in. You know what I mean? But it never fails that it comes. And a lot of times, do you guys ever just, like, not feel your phone vibrate? Or I feel like grocery stores have tons of dead spaces in them or something. Because all of a sudden I'll walk out and it's like bzz, bzz, bzz. And I'm just like, oh, here we go again. Anyway, sorry, back to your story.
No, you're good. And for some reason, it just reminded me of in The Office when the Michael Scott Paper Company gets the Korean church van.
Yeah.
People just keep getting picked up by us.
That's so funny.
But I'm making my last round after the, I have to go back and go get something. And I run into old Brett Gammer. It was a perfect thing because I would say Colton and Brett are the two boys on the team that really know how to take care of their bodies. They know how to eat. So it wasn't hey, I need to educate you on taking those things out of the cart type of conversation, but just kind of reminded me too of, I take for granted, I assume because they're alive and they're in college that students are educated on how to kind of grocery shop. So fortunately, these two guys are. Big shout out to them, Kovich and Gammer. But the easiest thing when you walk into a grocery store, you just want to buy everything that's perishable, right? If it comes in a cardboard box, like, you just don't want to be putting that into your body. It's fake food. It's manufactured food. So go for the perishables, and it's said on every single piece of media out there of shop the perimeter of the grocery store. So when you walk into most grocery areas, they're going to have your fruits and vegetables first, right? Because those have to go because they're perishable. So really bulk up your carbs, especially as a hockey player, on your fruits, on vegetables. Hit up your potato aisle and section as well, and keep going around. And nowadays, there's just tons of good options for organic. So get your organic vegetables, your organic fruits, especially potatoes, bananas. Even though it's 10 cents, more expensive for an organic banana, it's still so cheap. You could buy 50 bananas for $5. Like, you could really load up on those bad boys. So specifically thinking for college hockey players, whether you're on a budget or just trying to find those healthy options, get your organic fruits, potatoes, bananas. go down a few choice aisles for your organic rices. But again, just kind of stick to the perimeter, get a lot of color in there, and just avoid going down the aisles where they have all the processed, shelf-stable stuff. Go for the non-perishables. And if you're in the locker room there, boys, ask Kovic and Gammer. They can lead you to the promised land.
It's good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, what's the difference between an organic banana and just, like the standard?
Yeah, so organic implies it's not sprayed with factory-made chemicals. So
okay.
We'll go very briefly on this. Scientists have engineered certain foods and seeds to not be killed by chemicals that will kill everything. So, for example, Roundup. You spray Roundup anywhere in your yard, and it's going to kill it.
Right.
But you could go out to the middle of Oklahoma in the wheat field, and they're spraying Roundup all over the place. How's that plant not dying? The seeds have been chemically engineered, genetically modified to be able to withstand that.
Wow.
So an organic implies that the food has not been sprayed with something chemical. Organic does not imply non-GMO, but it does imply that it won't be doused in just juice that will kill you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Good to know. All right. Good stuff. What do we got? You want to tease us for next week?
We're going to hopefully go back to gut health, but
Okay.
running into the boys there got me fired up.
Yeah,
That's good. I'm going grocery shopping tonight, so I'm inspired.
Oh, perfect.
I'm
Yeah.
inspired.
All
Yeah.
perimeter.
Stick to the perimeter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Don't let them suck you down the aisles.
Won't.
All right, turn our attention now to men's Division 2. Good weekend for them. They rolled past Miami of Ohio, winning 4-2 and 5-2. Good to see the Flames take on an old rival and come away victorious. Kent, 2 goals, 2 apples. Lamoureux, we talk about him, 1 goal, 3 assists. A great weekend. Hauk with 2 goals as well. So this was a big weekend for the Flames, a big sweep for them, and it helps locking in potentially an auto bid as Liberty sits number 2 in the Southeast.
Yeah, I think for them, and it's kind of interesting too, which after the Northeast trip, we'll have to try to get Ben Hughes on just to hear really, well, that's for the Rock the Rink After Dark, to get his actual take on
this actual show one day.
to get his actual take on, hey, do you really want to be the number 2 right now?
Yeah.
So because it's starting to probably lock up to what the pool going to be like.
Yeah.
And, prior to the pod, we were just talking the pool at
it's
not
crazy.
only regionals
Men's
but nationals.
Wild.
It's so scary, right? Chris Lowe's could, now thinking about it, we should have asked him about it going back, but for at least this segment. But he could even talk about you feel vulnerable and it feels like you never know what could happen.
Yeah.
Right. So but I mean, right now, hey, you're at number 2. I'm sure that's good for morale for the room, and you're about to go on a good road trip where you've had a lot of success versus the teams in the Northeast.
Yeah. Flames 6-0 versus the Northeast that they take on this road trip. So it'll be good for tests for them. Man, it hangs in the balance, like that 2-3 spot. One, you think if you're in 3 through the rest of the net digits down to 14, I believe this year, what does it really matter that much? But 2 and 3 is so huge.
Yeah. I have a skill of persuasion.
Okay.
So you can kind of just spin a story to make it sound great no matter what.
Yeah.
So it's hard if you're in that 2-3 spot. If you're in the 5, boys, we're going to regionals, right? You could really spin it and rally the troops. If you're the 1 seed, we're going to get tons of rest. Everybody else is going to be tired, right?
True.
But if you're in that hanging in the balance and you're not sure, are we going, are we not going, you can't really go into the locker room and get the boys fired up.
Yeah,
you can't say we're going to be battle tested and these 1-2 seeds aren't, right?
Yeah.
You can't go in there and say we're going to be more fresh, because
I like that.
you start saying that now and then all of a sudden the script will flip and they'll be like, well, hey, wait, last week you were pumping this up.
Yeah, I know.
So you got to be like, I was lying to you then. Right? It's hard. It's a very tough position to be in.
In a lot of ways, you feel like you lose. If you drop down to 3, you've lost your auto bid. You feel a sense of, we failed.
We had something.
Yeah.
We don't.
And right now it's close, because I remember we were looking at it prior to the Miami series. They were less than less than 0.1 above 3, which is Indiana. And Indiana, I know they swept Bradley, who's they're in the top 20 of the Central region, but I can't remember where.
How is Indiana in the East? In the
Southeast, yeah. I don't know.
This is turned into the ACC.
Because one is, I think I saw like Michigan or Wisconsin. It was one of those teams in the Southeast for either men's D3 or what. And I was like, how's that possible?
Like Penn State's in the Southeast too, right?
Yeah. And they should
still?
be. Yeah, and they should be in the Northeast.
Yeah, like it's crazy. Like, I almost wonder if there should
it's like
be
Ohio
some
teams, right?
geographical aligning that goes down, and then if you do just so happen to have, well, like even then, play teams. Yeah, I'm like, if you want to play teams in the Southeast, who cares? But like, it's one of those things where I feel like there should be some element of this.
I just don't think there's enough teams in the Southeast at ACHA D2 level.
Maybe did a lot of them go AAU?
That's a good question.
Like I can't think. There's NC State and UNC, but I'm like, okay, from there, like who else? Like Florida.
Yeah, that's true. There is that kind of like,
and then there's a fair amount, like, because a lot of the South Carolina teams are either ACHA D3 or, like you said, AAU. So
interesting.
That's a good point.
That's it. Yeah,
Right.
maybe it's time to kind of like.
Yeah, kind of just reword.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the Eastern, the Eastern. I don't know.
The East, but not Northeast.
Yeah. All right, moving on here. Men's Division III, Salvage the split versus High Point, which is a high-powered team these days. Lose 6-4, empty net goal, win 3-2 versus number 3 High Point. So the big part of this.
Crazy.
Andy Costin coming out getting the Men's Division III boys fired up to win Game 2.
Yeah, I think it was huge. Obviously, D3 High Point has a guy named Jack Sladen. That boy can play. Yeah. Right? Like, I know Andy probably did a story on him, but like, he fueled High Point to victory in night 1. Right. And then night 2, I got to credit Coach Wagner making the proper adjustments to really shut him down. Yeah. So he was not a factor the second day.
Yeah, no, I think I did do a story on him, and his story was basically like he wasn't planning on playing college hockey. You know, he was like, I'm kind of over it. I kind of lost my love for the game once I played competitive for so many years, and then he showed up to High Point, and they were like, hey, we got a hockey team, and he was like, oh, well, maybe I'll just, I'll try it out, and I mean, he's just absolutely dominating. I think early January was when he broke the program's single season scoring record, and yeah, so he's doing his thing.
Good for the kid.
Yeah.
Good for the kid. Good for High Point. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things. At that level, D3, even Division 2 to a certain extent, you find that one guy on your campus that was just a stud hockey player that's not playing, and they can change your whole program around really quickly.
Yeah, I remember when you coached, you said played a guy from George Mason.
Oh, yeah, that kid.
Yeah, and you guys lost 7-5.
Yeah.
But he has helped score all 7 goals. Yeah, he scored 5 of them and assisted the other 2.
Jeez. Yeah, and he actually had a scholar. I don't know how this happened, but I looked it up. He had a scholarship to a D1 NCAA program. Like, he was offered. Now, I think something happened, not sure what, that scholarship was taken away. But how do you go from there to then playing Men's Division III Acha? Just like, he was so good compared to everybody else on the ice in terms of just, I don't think he was a better team player, but just when it comes to pure talent,
right? Yeah.
When you're that separated, like, he just blew by guys. It was
became an academic. Just went to school for the major. Yeah. Good program. good program.
That's what we'll say. Yeah. All right. Men's Division III, big weekend for them. Good stuff. Grant Zhao with 2 goals, 2 apples, and Desmarais, Bowman, 2 assists each. Good stuff as they continue to look on. When is AAU tournament time, Pat?
AAU tournament, it's around National. So I think it's like right before now.
Yeah.
So, and I think part of me says it's in Westchester, PA.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That 4-barn rink. Mm-hmm. I know the rink. Yeah, I've been there.
Is that Ice Line?
Is it? I think it is Ice Line. Yeah.
Frigid.
You know what? You're right. It is a cold rink.
It is cold.
Very cold.
Oh, that was brutal. Yeah. The first time I went there, I had just come from Canada. And Mike Morrison was like, bring extra clothes. I'm like, I'll be fine. And I got it. I was like, oh, man, come on. And we drop one to Florida Gulf. Just, brutal. Yeah, brutal. Anyway, sorry, Pat. Get you rolling here.
Yeah, that barn, that's a cold barn. I feel you there, Kerr. That place is really cool. I remember I went there for, What year was it when Liberty lost to FGCU in Men's Division 2?
2016.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I remember my wife sent me on a mission because they had an IKEA in the area.
Oh,
and I came back with
believe it.
like, I don't know, 4 or 8 wicker chairs and also like an outside table, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know how I stuffed that all in like this little ghetto Impala I was driving.
No way.
Somehow, like I couldn't even see out the back window.
Were they disassembled?
No, like the
Okay.
chairs were fully
Yeah.
assembled. The table was, but I slid that across the back seat.
Yeah.
Somehow managed to get like the doors shut.
Yeah.
And then I just stuffed wicker chairs like all around it. Like you could not see anything. I was the driver's.
You removed your driver's seat. You were
No,
sitting
I
in a
was
wicker
like,
chair.
yeah,
On the way
pretty
back.
much.
Yeah.
But that was the. I remember that to this day. All right, Women's Division 2 hosts Lawrence Tech on senior weekend. They're trying to do their best to stay in the top 4 of the Southeast region. I was speaking with Rena earlier this week. She's feeling pretty comfortable about that aspect. Lawrence Tech 13-8-1, number 3 in the Central, coming off a 5-5 tie. We still do that? And and 1-0 win versus Adrian, who is number 4 in the Central.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is, you could argue to make sure they're safe, these are must wins.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Like at least a tie and a win, right? Like you don't want to lose both. And also more so build momentum going into the DVCHC playoffs and hopefully roll from there to going back to the national tournament for the Lady Flames' 3rd time.
Yeah.
And I want to see some firepower like we've had in a couple games there in the fall where the ladies were just able to put up some points. Now, I'm not expecting 7, 8, 10 goals or something like that, but let's have a 2 or 3 goal margin.
Right.
Just to like,
Make yourself feel
again,
comfortable,
Yeah,
right?
that, but like, we just got to get as much statistical backup.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
I can't stand another year where we didn't make it.
Yeah.
Like, just
I'm with it.
the
Oh, yeah.
technicality
I
side
agree.
of things. So I hope this team is as motivated as some other people around the rink of like, hey, let's go.
Yeah, we
Like,
don't want to see
please.
Women's Division 2 pause the voting at 1 a.m.
Yeah, exactly. Oh
It's
man.
going to be interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So quick on a serious note, prayers for Cade Cox. We saw him earlier this year, a part of NC State, taking an injury versus UNC.
Yeah, it was very tragic, very similar, which a lot of Flames faithful can remember the Josh Fricks injury.
Yeah.
Very similar situation that happened to him. Sounds like he's doing very well.
Good.
Can move and has feeling in a lot of his extremities. So, yeah, very positive to hear. And, yeah, still having prayers because I'm sure there's going to be interesting and long road of recovery for him.
100%. Tough stuff. Yeah, but thoughts and prayers, obviously, at NC State. While the program is a rival of Division II, we also have become good friends with a lot of their staff.
Yeah.
And good guys all around, so we'll be thinking of them every step of the way. Before we go, it felt like it was a little bit of like alumni weekend. Lots of old faces around. I saw the Bloomfields taking a game at Men's Division 1. Also, the coach of Kirk Handy, when he was a player at Liberty, Corrado Puglisi, was in town.
Oh,
and he got
wow,
to do
okay.
the lineup on Friday night for the victory.
Oh, love it.
He was going to wind up. There's video out there of it, Pat. I'll see if I can find it.
Okay.
Send it your way. But, yeah, good to see some familiar faces around. And, again, another big weekend split for Men's Division 1 as they did split with Adrian heading up to Ohio this weekend. Any final thoughts before we go?
No, it's an exciting time, and in 1 month we'll be in St. Louis, right? Like it is fast and it's furious.
That's crazy.
It's incredible.
Yeah. One of these years I got to get back out to an Nationals.
Agreed.
It's so hard. I was really planning on doing it this year, but it's not going to happen. Hopefully next year I can make it work.
Yeah, well, you know where it's going to be now for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Is it in St. Louis for 5 years?
I think so. There was one, I think for one of the years they hadn't confirmed 100%, but I can't see it not being
It's
there.
not a bad spot in the sense that how centrally located
Correct.
it
Yes.
is, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Agreed.
At least it makes it fairly easy on all parties involved.
And it's
Yeah.
a big, like, spread out city, so you could get parking.
Yeah,
Right?
and it's a great
Chicago,
venue.
Yeah.
Like the Centene Ice Center, especially where they play the Final Four and championship game for each division, it's unreal. So it's perfect.
Yeah, like middle of nowhere.
Yep.
Like, what are the things like in the swamp, the tall tall, skinny stick with like the cattail at the top
Oh,
type of thing.
yeah.
I don't know.
I think
what
people
those
call them cattails.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
That
Just
sounds
like in the middle of nowhere, fields like that.
Right.
That's where the rink is. It's a great spot.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. All right, hey, it's been a fun show. Good to have Chris Lowe's on. We'll be back at it next week again. Coming up, Flames at Ohio. I think. Do you have to pay to watch those?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So we'll tell you about it next week. For Pat, Annie, Chris, I'm Rhett saying so long. We'll see you then.